Alright, what's up guys? It is Jack and Max, and we're going to show you how we record a song today. Basically what we're starting out with, we're just trying to find out the drum beat, which we are doing in Ableton Live 10. I'm just kind of playing along with my guitar here. We're just trying to see what fits, and yeah, hopefully we'll get a nice drum beat. We kind of just mouth out what we want, or we try to explain as best we can, but we don't have any experience with drumming, so kind of a guessing game for us.
It's a process.
It's a process. Maybe a symbol after that, like you know, that kind of thing. Skip that one on that one and have it on the one again.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll work.
I kind of like that.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
I feel like it needs a little bit of a tweak, but we'll figure that out once we bring some more instruments in.
Okay, so we have our intro, we have our verse, we have our epic sounding section.
And once we bring more instruments in, bass and guitar, we'll kind of see how the rhythms play out, and sometimes we'll change the drum beat to match what we're playing, because obviously we know more about the guitar than we do the drums. Cool.
So we brought in a scratch track for the guitar, and we're using that to lay down our drums, get the groove right, get the overall feel. We're going to be re-recording them later, but for now these will work fine.
Alright guys, so we brought our scratch guitar track in. The drums weren't really lining up how we thought they would, so we went back and kind of tried to get a cleaner sound. We moved some of the snares and the bass drum hits so we could put some more hi-hats and focus more on that kind of rhythm.
Let's give it a listen. A lot more relaxed. It's also a little less crowded than it was, and we don't even have our full instrumentation, so if we were already feeling that it was crowded at this stage, then it's definitely going to be crowded when we add another guitar and a bass and the vocals into the mix, so we have to free up some space, especially in this stage.
It is day 2 of recording the song. We just recorded a scratch track of my guitar just to get a sense of where the drums are going to fill in and how the song structure is going to look in general. So I'm going to go grab the bass. Max, you can talk about what you're doing with the drums over here.
Okay, so like Jack said, we just recorded a scratch track, and that's really just to help get the feel of the groove, like if we're headed in the right direction. And then once we had all those laid out, I went through and messed with the velocities, so instead of having the same sounding drum hit over and over again, it kind of gives that human imperfection kind of feel, and also helps emphasize certain parts of the song. Now we're gonna lay down a bass track and see how that goes. So now that we have our drums and bass, we started by recording Jack's rhythm guitar, Jack's lead guitar, and we added my rhythm guitar. Originally, I had recorded this with my acoustic guitar, but we ended up deciding that the electric sounded better. And once we had that recorded, we recorded Jack's vocals.
Old crooked bricks, devoid of...
And brought them all into the mix.
So Max, how do you mix a song?
So you get your levels done first, and your panning, and then you can start adding effects. So the reason for that is once we start adding effects to the mix, that really complicates things, and you don't want to have that be like the determining factor. You want to take that variable out of the mix so it becomes easier to mix. Once we had all those things, we started by adding compression. We added those to all of the tracks. What that does is it takes out the high and low points, just compress it a little bit so that you don't have these drastic changes in levels in one track. So once that's added to all the tracks, we go in and we add our EQ. So what we're doing with the EQ is we are basically carving out a space for that track in the mix, as well as taking out the bad frequencies that we don't want. For example, for a guitar, I would give it a low cut so that it's not interfering with the bass. Once we have that done, we can start getting creative with our effects. There isn't really a whole lot of effects on this track, except for on my guitar. My guitar needed a bunch of effects because it's the rhythm guitar. It needs to be really background to everything, and you can achieve that with a normal mix. I recorded my guitar direct in to Ableton, so when you're recording through an amp, you have all your EQs and your effects on the amp itself. So I didn't have any of that, so I had to add it all in Ableton. I have my EQ, which is really cutting down more of the mid to high end of the spectrum, because that's where Jack's guitar is sitting in the mix, and we don't want our guitars to interfere. This is my guitar without any effects. So you can hear that that's super super muddy. It doesn't really have a place in the mix. Here, actually, let me play it in the mix itself. So you can just hear that it just doesn't sit right. So if we solo this track again and turn on all our effects here, we can play that back, and now if we unsolo it, it really has its place in the mix now. So for the vocal track, what we have is our compression, our EQ, very standard, but we added a touch of reverb, and without that, this is what that sounds like.
Cold wet streets, early lights.
Now if we add that in,
Cold wet streets, early lights.
just gives a little more atmosphere, makes it sit in the mix better. So when we were listening to the mix, we felt that there was something missing, and we wanted to go for that atmosphere kind of feel, so we added this synth. Before, the synth sounds like this. And now with the synth. Just adds a lot more atmosphere to the mix, and it really glues everything together.
Alright, so that is basically how we record a song. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Usually we take a lot longer to record a song than just about a week, but it was interesting to kind of try to do it in that time frame. So if you want to listen to the song, it will be here. And yeah, I hope you guys like it. I'll see you next week.